You're listening to Second Cut. This is the weekly podcast from the Film Magazine where we talk about movies. That's the old intro. We talk about topics in film theory and criticism through like movie reviews and stuff like that. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who forgot our intro.
I'm Sam. I'm the one who's seen Toxic Avenger for 3 times now, and it was my own choice. I wasn't forced or anything.
And I'm Kieran. I'm the one that is very happy to find that the kind of main song for the original class of Nuke Em High is on Spotify as a song to listen to, and it's very catchy.
Yeah, so we are here discussing Troma Entertainment, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You guys definitely know a lot more about it than me. You've seen more of the movies. I did see Toxic Avenger in the past, but like I didn't know there was a whole like studio behind it. I thought it was just some dumb schlock film. But Kieran, you sent us this hilarious excerpt from one of the founders of the studio.
Yeah,
it's wrapped up in the most pretentious language possible, and I love it.
Yeah, so I found the introduction to a book called Underground USA, Filmmaking Beyond the Hollywood System, which is just loads of interviews on kind of underground, low-budget maverick filmmakers. And the introduction is by Lloyd Kaufman, who is the creator of the founder of Troma Entertainment. And Troma Entertainment are still going, but mainly in the 70s and 80s. They were a very low-budget exploitation, comedy, horror. Schlock is the best way to describe it. Pictures. And it's just great. I mean, some of the stuff he talks about in the opening paragraph isn't that long, but I'll read it out anyway, and hope we don't get done for copyright. It says this. He says this. When I entered Yale in 1964 as a Chinese studies major, I'd expected to become a social worker who would do good things like teach people with hooks for hands how to finger paint. I didn't, of course, because I got infected with the movie bug. My roommates at Yale were co-chairs of the Yale Film Society, and it was because of them that I began watching great mainstream movies by Hitchcock, Chaplin, Renoir, Fuller, Lang, Lubitsch, and others. In my first film, I slaughtered a pig in Chad, Africa. And it was then I realized that offending people was what I yearned to do. By slitting a pig's throat and watching it shit and oink at the same time, I somehow expected to become renowned in the mainstream, just like my movie heroes.
This is what going to Yale gets you, people. Don't bother.
But I mean, you know, in this, he discusses very much kind of the idea of Troma and goes slightly pretentious. But you got stuff like, for me, Troma is an example of underground micro-budget art that produces macro violence, vomits tits and more tits. We have to sleep on the floor, eat cheese sandwiches 3 times a day, and defecate in paper bags in order to make our movies on a non-Hollywood budget. Is this a bad thing? No. In fact, being in the underground is liberating.
One of my favorite paragraphs here is one of my inspirers, Andy Warhol, was able to retain total creative freedom afforded to him as a member of the underground. At the same time he embraced mainstream media, Troma has never been hugged by the mainstream, but we still feel loved. While I will never surrender my artistic freedom, I was hopeful that one day I will wake up to find millions of people have been able to see beyond the dismemberments in Tromeo and Juliet, or the defeatusing in Terror Firmer, or head-crushing cum diarrhea in Citizen Toxie, and carry me off the battlefield of art on their shoulders. A hero of the underground.
Yeah. We should probably put this out here to begin with. We'll be using kind of Troma as probably a launching pad for, you know, probably we'll be discussing kind of schlock, B-movie cinema as well. Yeah. Anyone that is here for any discussion of polite kind of artsy cinema who really does not like foul language or anything like that, it is impossible to discuss like Troma's output without copious reference to dismemberments, body parts, genitalia, like in sometimes the most crude way possible. You just can't do it because that is the sensibility that at least Troma has had for 4 decades now, which is we are going to get almost no money. We are going to make the most outrageous or most offensive, stupid movies ever. But we know what we're doing, and half the time we're going to do it with like a Monty Python-esque kind of self-awareness
Yeah.
at the same time.
I think that's something that kind of marks out Schlock just from plain crap filmmaking. Really, it's kind of, it knows what it is. It is that self-awareness. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. Could they do better? I mean, maybe not on their budget. You know, maybe it's kind of, they're doing the best kind of thing they could on their budget level, but kind of almost taking the piss out of, you know, what they couldn't do, what they couldn't like do better. You know, there's like
And,
production value and stuff like that.
Yeah, I watch a lot of crap movies that are just poorly made. And so, there's definitely a difference between, you know, we know that we're making something stupid and it can be good. There's this weird line between good bad movies and bad movies that I think self-awareness is definitely an element of making a bad movie better.
Yeah, and I mean, all these films, at the very least, you can tell they're having fun making it. You know, you can tell they do not give a damn. Part of it is literally just to give a middle finger to pretty much everyone watching if they can.
Yeah.
I mean, I will be talking about the Nuke Em High series, and then the fifth Nuke Em High, which is the latest one and the most kind of extreme and ridiculous. It came out in 2017. So at one point, one of the kind of rabid, kind of radioactive creep gang is running down the corridor after a girl, and one of them shouts, "Grab her by the pussy." But then at the same time, they reckon that the evil kind of guy's government plans for a youth elixir based off the farts of teenagers that are radioactive is supported by Hillary Clinton. So they're insulting both sides of the fight at the same time. So
yeah, I mean that's almost like a South Park kind of method of kind of, it's like, what did Trey Parker always call it, like equal opportunities offensiveness, you know, just
I was gonna get into the centrism of Trey Parker and Matt Stone for sure. It's
yeah. But I mean, yeah, for them to kind of get to the point, you know, where it's like, let's offend everyone, let's just see what we can get away with, and you know, it's all going to be all right because we're only joking, kind of thing. From humble origins, I mean, you know, Troma, founded in '74, you know, by Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hertz. One of the first projects they were involved with was, of all things, Louis Malle's My Dinner with Andre,
which is regarded as like a very good high art piece of cinema.
Yes. Highbrow, low key, kind of, like real kind of real art house. I mean, it's literally it's two actors having a conversation. You know,
to be honest, the limited budget you need for that is probably how they helped fund it.
They provide production support on that apparently. So you know, they've just sort of doing the running for it, and you know, just been on hand. You know, but just to start with that, and then going straight to like some really trashy like sex comedies, and then on to the horror kind of thing. It's you know, probably over like less than a decade. I mean, because I think My Dinner with Andre, obviously, it's early 70s, it's kind of mid 70s, and then they're doing Toxic Avenger, you know, less than a decade later. You know, so they really settle into their kind of the kind of thing they wanted to do, you know, quite quickly.
And just in that era of cinema in general, like exploitation films were really on the rise. They were cheap. They can make money. You can, you know, before B movies were like, you're going to package them up and buy them with the A pictures, but with blaxploitation and other sort of violent exploitation genres that could show like all the nasty bits that you couldn't show under the production code.
Yeah, and even if you weren't getting them in, like, you know, into, you know, the big like mainstream theaters, you know, they always would have an audience because they had specific, you know, specialist, you know, underground place, you know, to show things like this, you know. So, you know, people in the know are interested in seeing them. Always had a place to go, and it was a smaller but kind of dedicated audience. So, as you say, they'd always be making money.
Yeah, and also sort of going into the 70s, not only is film equipment becoming cheaper to get, you know, if you had, you could pool some money together and afford, you know, a camera at the very least, and then you can get the editing suites. You know, going into the 70s, you get the VHS players coming out. And so now you've got all these companies that are essentially doing the distribution behind it, which is enabling all these like low budget films to get seen. So beforehand, you needed kind of the distribution there. It doesn't need to go to big wide. So it's going to take a risk for a lot of them, which is why you got it packaged with the A movies. But now you can make anything. You can burn it onto a VHS and anyone can see it, you know? So it opens the floodgates. And this is how the whole video nasties things starts in the UK, where, you know, we had all these films, you know, especially things like Driller Killer and, you know, those kinds of, you know, big schlock films that got attacked by the censors because all the packages were like on, you know, display. You go down Blockbuster and they're all there. But even you know, even with that, things like Apocalypse Now, there was one time where they tried to get rid of Apocalypse Now because it got the word apocalypse in. Oh, this must be, you know, full of madness because they hadn't actually seen the film. They just seen the title and gone, get it off the shelves. So, you know, around the time, the kind of the method of film distribution is changing, which allows people like Troma to go in. And distribution is one of the things that I think it was Dirty Dancing. They were mainly, the company behind that were mainly kind of distribution thing, and or they've gone into it very much, and that's kind of their bedrock. And they've got one or two films that allowed them to have some money to stop them going under, essentially. So the distribution side of it is very much a part of it, and Troma has distributed a lot more films than it has produced. But the ones it's produced are kind of, well, some of them are kind of very much cult classics now, and very schlocky, and have launched some careers.
And also, if you go to their website, that have Troma distribute your film. Troma Entertainment is looking for new acquisitions to add to its Tromerific film library. Send your finished feature-length or short films to Troma Entertainment, Attention Acquisitions, 3640 11th Street, LIC, New York, 1106.
Yeah, and Troma kind of pride themselves on being one of the first kind of film companies to get themselves a website. When the internet first started up, and they were
it looks
one of the
like
first ones
it's
to start doing
a first started up internet website still.
Start doing DVDs as well. You know, when DVDs became a thing, they are having to go kind of underground and maverick to get the stuff out.
I mean, something like that, it kind of makes me think of one of the things it came to me when I was rewatching Toxic Avenger was tone-wise, it's almost like it's like 60s Batman meets Russ Meyer, basically. It's that kind of total extremes, you know. It's like it's a hybrid between those two. And Russ Meyer again was another one of these early kind of proponents of like running his own website and stuff. Basically, he used in his retirement, he just produced his own DVDs and sold them. You know, it's just shipped them out of his garage. You know, and just shipped them around the states. You know, it's like when you're doing kind of, you know, productions of this kind of level, you know, and that on the budget you're doing, it's just any kind of small gains, you know, and you kind of keep it all kind of close to the chest, you know, and just keep your outgoings low, but keeping, you know, kind of your income ticking over time. You know, it's all the more important. Another thing I was thinking about was, Kieran, you talk about obviously video nasties and things like that. So this is, we're going from like films that were banned and condemned, you know, back in the day, to now. I mean, I know this week in the UK at least, don't say in the States, but all of these are on Amazon Prime now. They're free to, you know, they're just it's there to easily stream. You can basically stream Troma's almost entire back catalogue by the looks of it. Do you think, to a modern audience, they're still shocking, or are they just kind of laughable now? You know, the kind of content in them. I mean, the thing that came to is like from some of the views of the time, you know, kind of, I mean, it's all jokes, or it opportunity offence, but obviously, so, well, you couldn't go with that now, you couldn't say that now, you know, in terms of treatment with certain groups and stuff, you know, society and things like that, you know, it's all quite childish and kind of cruel at times, you know, but I don't know whether any of it still retains like shock value, because obviously the effects were always rubbish, but they kind of they had a certain kind of visceral kind of impact back in the day. But now you can see the drawings, you can see how they've done it all, you know. So that's probably not going to shock you anymore. But is it just kind of the tone of thing and the treatment of certain characters, or
I mean, I think a lot of it is an appreciation of kind of tone and of kind of things being in the right place at the right time. I mean, with things like Toxic Avenger, it's so obviously stupid. that I think anyone that's going to find it shocking or offensive is going to get shocked or offensive at something anyway, and has completely missed
Yeah.
the fact that it is essentially a parody.
Yeah.
And is there with no money, and we're going to make a movie, and because we've got no movie, we're going to do whatever the hell we want, and we're going to show loads of blood and guts and people getting their heads ripped off by a mutated nerd because it's fun. You know, it's one of those, and I always think back to when I saw the film Gwen a couple of years ago, the 2020 film, and because it was mostly shot in Wales, they had the director at the Art Centre of Aberystwyth to do a Q&A afterwards. And it's a very kind of grim, kind of tonally folk horror. And there's a lot of kind of dark stuff. And there's especially a moment when they have to, I think there's a horse that's ill and they have to put it down essentially. And because it's like the 1880s, 1890s, you know, there's no kind of injections. They have to essentially kill it with a knife essentially. And it goes up to, and you do not see the horse getting killed for obvious reasons. They cut away from it. But afterwards, somebody asked about the violence and do you think violence is appropriate? And was it too much? Because they were like, I thought it was too much. And again, I think for something like that, a lot of it is storytelling. You know, some stories are just naturally violent. And for that reason, you have to naturally portray the violence. If a story does not necessarily require violence, then you don't show the violence. And you know, that's always a thing that comes up with, oh, these films are too violent, or stories are too violent. It's like, well, it's kind of, is it warranted? And if you want violence in any story, go to the Bible. You know, there's violence everywhere. Go to Shakespeare. Titus Andronicus has 14 people dead. There's cannibalism. There's arms getting chopped off. There's about 5 people dead in one scene, one after the other. It's ridiculous. So something like Troma, I think, in the first few minutes, not even that probably, you get the tone where they give no Fs and they are going to show absolutely everything. It's going to be stupid. It's going to be a parody. There's many bodily fluids and genitalia and blood and guts and mutated zombies and camp overacting as you can handle. And if somebody's getting offended by that, I think even then they've probably missed cueing into the tone of the film. And now if they've missed it, there's something really wrong.
And there's also the aspect of like independent film distributors and producers like Troma giving big, you know, future big time Hollywood people a sort of start or an opportunity. Some of the names that have come out of Troma include Oliver Stone. Let's see, James Gunn. Do y'all know any others?
I did see a comment somewhere on Twitter that they were.
Oh no, we lost Kieran.
No. Oh gosh.
Reckoned that James Gunn's.
Oh, there we go.
He's back.
I'm back.
All right.
Am I in
Try
or
again.
not?
Yes, we can hear. Try again.
Yeah. So, my internet connection is unstable apparently. Woo! Who would have guessed? Yeah, apparently somebody commented on Twitter that essentially the new James Gunn DCEU was just Troma Part 2. Which I would love to see, just like the entirety of the DCEU like done as Troma films. I mean, James Gunn got his start here.
Yeah, but like his early pre-Marvel films are pretty Troma-y still. I mean, aren't they? Like Slither and Super, you know, they've got that tone, that trashiness to them. You know, they're better. They're better made on a surface level, but like nothing different really content-wise. You know, it's just a bit more polished, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at Wikipedia, for example, Vincent D'Onofrio got kind of early starts there. Samuel L. Jackson, James Gunn, again, as we said, Oliver Stone, so Kevin Costner, Abrams. So, and it kind of goes back to one of my theories that you can't be a massive Hollywood A-lister that hasn't worked or acted on a really low-budget schlock horror movie at some point. Yeah. And it's a rite of passage you have to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was, you know, you always ended up working with Roger Corman. You know, if you're coming up in the '60s and early '70s, you know, and then 80s into 90s, it's Troma, isn't it? It's the same sort of thing, really. It's like a proving ground almost. It's a place to get some work, to learn those skills, even if at the time you may not think what you're working on is that great.
Yeah, and you make the connections with the people on set, so that when you have an idea, you've got people that you can rope in for a low amount of money because you've made friends on set. And I mean, as we said before, you're talking about Roger Corman. Coppola started. He was working on a Corman film, and they were still in Ireland. And Corman went to him and goes, "You want to direct, don't you? Yeah, I've got this amount of money. Can you get me a script in about 2 weeks, and we'll start shooting in a month?" And that was Dementia 13. So you start off on these lower films, you work your way up the ranks, a bit like how kind of novel writers now, especially kind of your genre writers, will start off doing your short stories, and eventually you'll work up. Once you hone your craft there, and then you work up to the big novels. So you have to put the graft in, and places like Troma is where you do it.
All right. Well, let's dive into these Troma films. And Sam, is yours chronologically first?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, then let's start with the Toxic Avenger, which came about 10 years after the studio's founding?
I think pretty much exactly 10 years after it was founded.
Yeah, 84, according to Wiki at least. So.
So I'm going to be talking about the first 3 Toxic Avengers, because I haven't seen. so Toxic Avenger in 84, Toxic Avenger Part 2 in 89, and Toxic Avenger Part 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie, also in 89. I have not seen Citizen Toxie, and obviously the new Toxic Avenger has only just been screened at some festivals, so that'll be a while away. Yeah.
And the thing, as we said beforehand, with massive names in.
Yes,
well.
This isn't your dad's Toxic Avenger. This is.
Is it Peter Dinklage? Is Elijah Wood in there?
Kevin Bacon. Yeah, there's some big names in it. Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Bacon. One of his first things was in Friday the 13th. So again, you've got to start in the low budget. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, so a lot of these films are set in Tromaville, which is this fictional New Jersey town, which is apparently the toxic waste dumping capital of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me a bit of what John Waters does with his I can't remember what his fictional Baltimore neighborhood's called now, but it's that kind of thing. It's almost like taking the piss out of your local kind of neck of the woods, affectionately ribbing it and just making it look like an absolute kind of eyesore, but. Yeah, absolutely dumb. Yeah, so we follow Melvin, who's a dweeby cleaner at a local gym, and he gets accidentally dumped in a barrel of toxic waste, conveniently parks outside the gym window. So yes, he's been chased by these psychotic gym bunnies, who are tormenting him basically, and he falls out the window into the toxic waste, and transforms him into the hulking Toxic Avenger. Who's this like 6 foot something, bulky kind of dude, and his superpower is basically he can sense evil, and he's driven into a rage by the presence of evil, and he's gonna just stomp it out, and usually by ripping someone's head or arms or something off. And he wears a pink tutu because that's what the boys dressed Melvin in before his dive into toxic waste, and he fights with a mop because he's still a janitor at heart. And it's also, I know, maybe some clumsy metaphor about cleaning up crime or something. I don't know.
I think that's too sophisticated.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, so as I said, kind of tone-wise reminds me very much of like something like 60s Adam West Batman, really. It's just everything's heightened and exaggerated, and everyone's like a cartoon character, a walking cartoon character, basically. A lot of the actors throughout the series, they're recycled, they play multiple roles in the different films. Basically, all the criminals basically play different kinds. They're all like kind of themed gangs, basically. It's getting a bit like Batman, a bit like something like Mystery Men or something. It's like they're all just randomly. It's like mixing up. You got like 80s kind of LA style gangsters. Then you got like 30 Chicago gangsters, and then you got like there's a KKK guy. There's ninjas. There's everyone you can think of, basically. I mean, there's a great moment in the second film where this the bad guy's like big like stretch limo kind of pulls up, and it's like a clown car
Yeah.
basically. All
Yeah.
these goons just keep piling out. There's like about 50 of them just keep coming out.
And
lining up.
what's the name of this evil organization?
Apocalypse. Is it Apocalypse Inc?
I think it's Apocalypse Inc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we're not subtle in any way here.
No. I mean, they don't really come into it in the first film. The first film basically is fighting like a few local gangsters who are run by the corrupt city mayor, basically, and his police chief, who's sounds like a Nazi officer for some reason. He's like dressed like an American cop. He's just got a German accent just because.
Why not?
Yeah. And they kind of in the first film at least they have like this quite upbeat kind of pop soundtrack, to kind of go through it. But like I think it's mostly like royalty free music, I think, or it's like stuff they
Yeah.
kind of got very cheap. Like they use Night on Bald Mountain, famously from Fantasia,
Yeah.
as Toxie's theme in the first film, which kind of works. I think probably the best, obviously, Toxie kind of kills like a lot of these awful guys in like a variety of like quite creative ways. The best one for me is he gets one. It's a fight in like in like a cafe, and he basically just dunks this guy's hands in a deep fat fryer, just holds them there, and he dies. He's basically got like looks like he's got poppadoms on his hands or something afterwards. It's just it's just got all like crispy.
And it's not the greatest
like,
special effects in the world either,
No,
it's obviously cheesily bad,
Yeah, it's very much obvious when like, kind of they're doing a fight and then they've swapped to a dummy, so he can smash the guy's head into a wall or just rip an
It's the
arm
kind of
off.
thing where it would have been good sort of 40 years ago in black and white, where you can't tell really what's going on,
Yeah. What I will say though, I'll give him this. His initial transformation scene is still quite well done. I think
Yeah.
it's clever how it's done in the edit, and it's quite kind of subtle, like gradual upsiding on of layers of makeup and stuff, and like like a few like air kind of what's it called like you're inflating stuff with air and stuff.
Yeah,
Kind
it
of
was,
make,
it was like air bubbles underneath to kind of
Yeah,
shift the makeup on it. Yeah.
yeah. It's almost like kind of what they did with like American Werewolf, sort of like a Rick Baker type thing, but obviously not as well done, but still
For about a
kind of
30th of the budget,
yeah, but for the kind of film it is, it's not bad, that scene. So Toxie basically he gets revenge on all the bullies and then starts taking on like the local kind of corrupt authorities and ultimately the mayor, and then the oppressed people of the city, who've been kind of just basically they're like an underclass, the kind of that they'd be taken advantage of by all these people in power. Basically, they was rally behind Toxie, and he's sort of like a symbol of like a hero of standing up for the little people. I mean, in the second film, I think the intro voiceover is like something like, "In the shadow of the big city, with its big buildings, big businesses, and big people."
Yeah.
And then there's like something about like in the Tromville is where all the little people live.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you got to say everything is a joke, really. It's kind of it is what it is. They set out what they made set to make. I'm not saying it's anything great cinematically, but I find the first one at least very entertaining and just very easy to watch. I'd happily go back to it. It kind of as you say, Kira, you got to get your ear in, you got to get the tone right. But once you're there, I think you're just laughing along with it and laughing at all these exaggerated situations and this heightened reality. One of my favorite kind of throwaway lines. It's just a very random joke. It's just at one point Toxie he rescues like a sex worker from her pimp. And he's sort of brought around the corner, kind of, and he's obviously been kind of misleading her, and then she sees Toxic Avenger. she just says, "You told me we're gonna go see a David Bowie concert. He's not David Bowie." And then Toxie proceeds to rip the pimp apart basically, and set her free. He's got a blind girlfriend, of course, because like Toxic Avenger.
Very Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah. But I mean, you can criticize. Is if take everything as a joke, is it's got its racist moments, and it's got a lot of homophobic kind of moments, and just. And in the sequel, it's kind of stuff with the 'cause he goes to Japan in the sequel because of course he does.
Yeah. Well, they need because I've seen half of the second film, and the Apocalypse Inc. needs some technology to take the kind of the like bacteria evil sensing thing out of him, and they're like, where do we get technology from? Japan, obviously.
Yeah. I think we find that the Tromatons they want to take out of him.
Yeah.
So part two. Part 2 and 3, they're filmed together. They were just going to be one film, but they got too much footage, so they end up splitting them. And if I'm honest, there's probably it was too much footage for one film, but there also isn't enough footage for two films.
Yeah.
There's a lot of recycled. There's a lot of recycled stuff in the third film.
By the way,
what surprised me? No, I was just going to say, what surprised me is the fact that they actually went to Japan to film.
Right?
They didn't just get a set and put up a few signs and cast a few Asian actors. No, they actually went to Japan to shoot it.
They literally had this guy in Toxic Avenger costume just wandering around the streets of Tokyo and getting some bewildered reactions from people.
I read that Toxic Avenger was sort of a pivot point for the studio to go more to horror film. Sam, would you say this is more horror film or more like superhero / maybe like monster anti-hero film?
Originally, it was going to be just a splatter horror set in a gym. But then the more they worked on it, the more they realised, actually, the structure of this is kind of like a superhero film, and they're kind of the kids like those. So let's rejig it. And the title Toxic Avenger came very late, and they kind of.
And when we say kids like these, is it after the third or the fourth one they made like a kids TV?
Okay. Yes, so this was another weird trend of ultra-violent films in the 80s and 90s. They all had to have like a Saturday morning cartoon tie-in. So after the third film, 1991, Toxic Crusaders, which I haven't seen. It is again on Amazon, but I didn't get around to watching an episode of it, unfortunately. Hang on, so they did. It was just one season, 13 episodes. And
I hope they had PSAs like G.I. Joe.
Yeah, but it was weird the number of things that this happened to. Like there was a RoboCop animated series, there was a Rambo animated series.
Well, I mean, the amount of stuff that was marketed for kids that really should not have been from kids is amazing. If you've seen an advert for when Alien came out, and they did kind of like the kind of the action figures of Alien, and the xenomorph mouth that comes out, and it's got like 8-year-olds going, "Wow, cool!" And the advert is like, there's like full on
Toxic Crusaders was to put it it was just an excuse for Troma to get another revenue stream in by selling action figures, basically, as all Saturday morning cartoons were in that era. So the second film, he ends up going to Japan. So the bad guys trick him to leaving the city, so they can take over properly. They say, "Oh, your dad's over there. He was Japanese." All right, okay. So he so he goes to Japan to find his dad. He enters Tokyo Godzilla style, basically by rising up through the water and stomping up the beach.
He actually gets to Japan by windsurfing, doesn't he?
Oh yes, he does.
Probably because they had a windsurfer around. Okay, we'll use that.
Yeah, second one's probably got the best. Again, it's like in the opening kind of voiceover. I mean, I think they changed the actors who portrayed Toxie, I think, in the second one. So I can't remember what happened to the original guys, but so the voices. But in the first film, he looks horrible. He looks like Sloth from the Goonies if he was melted, basically. But in the first film, they have this really weird kind of overdubbed, kind of almost like radio announcer voice. Very kind of like, very kind of articulate and kind of well spoken, kind of clear voice.
Go rawr in one bit and then go, "Hey, you okay?" It's like, what the hell is going on? It's great. It's nothing like the original actor's voice that plays Fred before he gets dumped to the toxic waste. It's nothing like that. It's a completely different voice.
But then in the sequel they kind of I think I might be wrong, but I think it's the same guy voicing and kind of portraying him like physically as well. But I'd have to check that. But
For
but
2 and
they
3?
yeah
Yeah, it is.
yeah um, and they basically make him a bit more kind of a bit more naturalistic, I suppose. He just sounds like a guy talking. He just sounds like an ordinary dude, basically.
He's got a family now, so a proper
Yeah,
girlfriend. He settled down,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, in his opening kind of voiceover for the second film, it's it's got a great summation of his life. I'm the first hideously deformed monster hero of superhuman size and strength to come from New Jersey.
So good.
Um, so yeah, he goes to Japan. He ends, he fights bad guys over there essentially. He turns out his dad, or the guy pretends to be his dad, is a gangster, and they've got like Apocalypse Inc. got like their own kind of people over in Japan, and ends up fighting them. All the while, obviously, things are going to hell back in Tromaville, and the people are under the thumb again, and the town has been kind of corporatized, kind of franchised, and just everyone priced out. Basically, it gets turned into a ghetto, for like the ordinary people. They they pride themselves on being on just just have to hang about and dance in the streets and and watch a variety of movies at the local theatre. Of course, when
Oh yeah,
Apocalypse
yeah.
when Apocalypse Inc. Moves in, all they show is Apocalypse Now at the cinema.
That's all. I'm like, that's
Uh,
the greatest bit of just like
yeah.
genius writing ever.
And in the third film, they ban Troma films from the local video store.
Oh no. Sam, is this the second or third movie we've done with a fish twist involving gangsters? I can't remember if Speed Racer has an actual fish twist or if they're just in it.
Oh yeah, Speed Racer. The gangsters have like a big tank of piranhas, don't they? Like his armored truck, yeah. Who forced one of his minions to save by sticking his finger in the hole in the glass, yeah. And then Shiri has had the whole fish being used as listening devices thing, yeah. In this, I think Toxie's first indication that he isn't dealing with very good guys is when he goes to help this truck that's crashed and all the fish are on the ground, and the fish are full of cocaine. And his Japanese Japanese woman who he's met and kind of befriended and have got sort of romance going on. She goes over and tests it, and she goes. She just dips a finger in the cocaine and just says, "Oh, I'm not sure about this." Oh, and then just keeps dipping a finger in again and again. It's just like, yep, definitely cocaine. Get over here, Toxie. He also repurposes fish as weapons at one point as well. So there's a scene where he gets confronted in the street by a gang made up of ninjas and kabuki dancers for some reason. It's like, okay. So there's two Japanese things people might have heard of. So both attack Toxie. So first he goes up to the fish store and he gets a few starfish and uses them as throwing stars. And then he gets a swordfish and uses it as a sword. And then for the grand finale, he gets a sawfish, the jagged like out, and then revs it like a chainsaw and ram it into a guy's head. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. And he lets me a sumo wrestler at one point as well, because of course. Again, I think in the intro voiceover in the third film, he kind of says in Japan, I learned the spiritual disciplines of sumo wrestling and the power, beauty, and grace that made me better able to rip bad people's heads off.
It sounds like a Jean-Claude Van Damme quote.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So
All
by
right.
I would say the second one is fine. It's still fairly funny. It's way too long. Though. It's nearly 2 hours. It's like a Toxic Avenger film doesn't need to be nearly 2 hours. It's
90 minutes max.
trim it down a bit. And the third film, which is basically the remainder footage from that, and some recycled stuff and a bit of extra towards the end, is basically Toxie's back in Tromaville, taking on Apocalypse Inc. And at the end, he basically has to fight the evil corporate overlord guy, the main bad guy, who turns into the devil for some reason, and then sets him like a series of challenges based on video games. So it's sort of like, or kind of like the ideas of levels in video games. So there's like the water level, the fire level, what else was there? And there's like there's like one that goes into his mind and basically melts him from like the inside out, and then basically Toxie ends up losing his powers because the evil devil business guy somehow took them from him. But then actual gods, gives him back. And
Welcome to these movies.
Yeah, and then he obviously he wins the day. His blind girlfriend gets a sight at one point, some experimental kind of medical procedure funded by Apocalypse Inc. And she recoils when the surgeon takes the bandages off because he thinks he's hideous. And what what a twist, she recalls that the surgeon taking the bandages off. Then she finally sees Toxie's real face, and she thinks he's as beautiful as she always thought he was.
Oh,
which is lovely.
That is very Deadpool-esque.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember who plays the girlfriend now, but
I have Phoebe Legere.
Yes, Claire. Yeah. So Claire's the girlfriend. Yeah, Phoebe Legere, who's a really talented kind of musician and kind of
Juilliard-educated composer, soprano, pianist, and accordionist.
And she does a bit of singing, and she gets her accordion. She's well-regarded accordion player, and she plays it in church at one point. She does a bit of singing, and she does a bit of general kind of dancing, performing. She's a very multi-talented kind of performer.
That is hilarious.
She's probably like the performance highlight of the films, if there is one, because I think she just totally gets the tone, really overplays it, but it's just really, really funny and kind of works well. Again, kind of treatment of blind people isn't the most sensitively handled. I mean, the opening scene of the second film is basically she's got like an outreach program for them. They're all kind of shuffling around in the garden, trying to help out, and then it's like, and that's because goes out. It's like, well, all blind people, make your way to the cafeteria. And then the bad guys blow up the blind outreach place just to get to Toxie, as they do. As I say, they're not masterpieces. The first one's a lot of fun. The second one's all right. The third one's, the joke's worn thin. It's a bit of a mess by that point, but
the fourth one, who knows? We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. I mean, I find it fascinating that like the first film was a bit of a hit for them, I think, relatively speaking, and then the two sequels, basically. I mean, to be honest, I don't know why they took a whole like 5 years or so, to make them, because I don't know if they kind of lost a bit of momentum by that point, because I don't think anyone really saw them. They were both flops, I think. I mean, flops considering they didn't cost anything either. I mean, there's even a gag in the second film, like where they talk about how to kill Toxie, and someone suggests something, and then another person whispers, "The budget for this film's only $2 million. Think of something else."
That is one of the things that kind of starts up getting towards there, and then the kind of when I'll get to Nuke Em High, they kind of make fun of themselves and their own budget, like explicitly, as to why things are the way they are.
Yeah. I mean, literally, to have Toxic stomp into a video shop, see a big like poster for Toxic Avenger, and have a line about Apocalypse Inc. banning Troma films. You can only have films from major studios in the video shop now. It's just So they know what they're doing. Very kind of self-deprecating and everything, and I say just offensive to an extent, maybe like to modernise, but they have a go at pretty much everyone. So I don't know. I don't think it's an offence that kind of sticks around particularly. So yeah, that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of kind of Toxic Avenger, which is probably their biggest. Well, he's literally their logo. Toxie is their logo now. So I think he's a big part of what made them, and still kind of they're obviously still making Toxic Avenger films to this day. With the new one coming out. So I don't think it's the same can be said for any of their other kind of mini franchises.
Yeah, the other one that I saw listed is like a significant film in their oeuvre. How's that pronounced? Oeuvre? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oeuvre. Yeah, let's say oeuvre.
I don't speak French. Was Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we didn't watch that, but we did watch Class of Nuke Em High and the subsequent films, and now that Kieran is back.
Sorry, I keep hearing noise in the corner of my room. I can't work out what it is. I'll find
it's
out.
Toxic. Yeah. It's Toxic. Senses your
Very
evil.
possibly. Yeah, and Mother's Day is one of the films that I might have seen, but it's a slasher movie from 1980, which means it probably blend in with stuff like in the wake of Friday the 13th, you had stuff like The Prowler, you had My Bloody Valentine's, New Year's Eve, or Bloody Birthday, Happy Birthday to Me. So I've probably seen it at some point, but I can't remember it.
Yeah.
So my apologies for that. But are we on to Nuke Em High now?
Yes.
Yes, still Nuke Em High.
Woo! So literally before a few weeks ago, the only thing I knew about Troma was Nuke Em High, and I'd seen the 5th one at Abattoir when it came out at a Midnight Madness. So about 12:30 at night, I got shown the 5th one. Which, if you want the names,
by the way, that premiered at Cannes.
I know. Cannes showed this. This is where it started. So the Nuke Em High franchise is probably maybe the second most well-known kind of franchise from Troma. So you've got Class of Nuke Em High, which came out in '86. You've got the second one that came out in '91, which is Class of Nuke Em High 2, Subhumanoid Meltdown. Number 3 came out in '94, which is Class of Nuke Em High 3, The Good, the Bad, and the Subhumanoid. So we had, the good, the bad, the weird last week. We've had Jacob talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly before, and now we're on to the good, the bad, and the subhumanoid. Then they had a break for a couple of decades, and in 2013, they brought it back. And the 4th and 5th one are the same film, and they're split into 2. And it was genuinely Quentin Tarantino that said, make it into 2 movies, like Kill Bill. That was the suggestion. So, even Quentin Tarantino is a massive fan of Troma. But yeah, the 4th one is Return to Nuke Em High Volume 1. And then the second one is officially called Return to Nuke Em High, a.k.a. Volume 2. The a.k.a. is in there as part of the title.
Kieran, I want to know if, and I'm sure you'll get to this, but can you tell that there are 3 directors of the first film when watching it?
Are there 3 directors? Okay, yeah, it's Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hertz, and then Richard W. Hitch. No, not really.
Okay.
Because a lot of it is just point and shoot, kind of schlock. And the first one is kind of occasionally schlocky for a plot, which is there is a high school next to a nuclear power plant, again in Tromaville, because Tromaville is where everything is.
It's a metaphor for the U.S. There's just lead and chemicals everywhere.
Yeah, well, so much so that in the 2nd, 3rd, and at least the 4th one, I can't remember if it's in the 5th one, Toxie turns up and they tell him you're in the wrong film. It's that way. So, and there's people wearing Toxie badges and stuff. Yeah, the first one realistically can be described as kind of there's a spill of nuclear waste next to the high school, and therefore the marijuana gets radioactive. And the people working there sell it to the high school kids through the fence, and they smoke it, and they become the cretins, which are the kind of the punk gang. That I think it's in the first one as well. They have harmonious singing voices. They all break out into song occasionally. Definitely the Cretans in the kind of fourth and fifth one do. And so there's madness off that. The second one, the second and third one kind of go off from each other, but they don't really go off from the first Nuke Em High. It's been replaced. Another company's taken over the plant, and it's now kind of incorporated with the school. And there's a load of stuff with science experiments from one of the. It's actually the same person who plays the henchman to the main bad guy in Toxic Avenger 2 and 3.
Yeah.
The woman that's there, she's this evil scientist, PhD woman.
Dr. Slag.
No, it's Professor. It's Professor Holt.
Okay.
She's created a race of subhumanoids, so beings with emotions, almost like slaves. And there's a reporter there that's trying to do stuff and falls in love with one of these kind of humanoid things, and everything goes to hell. And they start poking fun at themselves. There's also a squirrel there, the Troma squirrel, that gets radioactive mutated and becomes a giant, massive kind of kaiju, destroying everything by the end of it. And they're bringing in the helicopters. And then it kind of ends because the third one has to come in. So they kind of leave it on a cliffhanger. The third one comes in, they kind of destroy it. I think it's the third one. I'm not sure if it's the second one or the third one where the main actor is the same actor as the previous one, but genetically it's like the son, but it's the same actor. So they've explained that way. You're a humanoid, and more stuff goes down. He's got a glowing hand. He has to keep in the nuclear reactor and to keep it going, because otherwise all the power will go out. So 12 hours a day, he has to keep his hand in this reactor, and more shenanigans. And that is when the evil Dr. Slag, PhD, comes
there we go.
To try and turn it into a toxic wasteland and stuff. And it's all mad and stupid. Then you have and that isn't the madness. 4 comes in. And we've got it's the fourth one where you have the Glee Club that gets mutated into the Cretans. You've got the two main girls, Chrissy and Lauren. And I can't describe the two plots. I cannot give an accurate description because so much random stuff happens. I can't remember.
Is Cigar Face the same Cigar Face from Toxic Avenger?
Oh yeah, is it?
Very possibly.
Is he Nuke Em High as well? Because he's in the first Toxic Avenger and the third Toxic Avenger, and it's literally only his final feature. He's just a black guy with a beard who's got a permanent, always smoking a cigar. And talking
Put it this way, very possibly, and I blanked him out because there's so much absolute madness and stupidity that goes on. And the fourth and fifth one have bits of narration by Stan Lee, as Stan Lee, full of expletives and saying Excelsior occasionally. But like,
the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles appear to be in it, or just characters with those names.
I think it's just characters with those names. I can't remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being in it. I think they're just characters of that. They might be the Cretans again. There's so much madness in it, stupid madness. They get a duck that's now radiated. That gang get one of the main girls, force her down, and then what they call in the nicest way. I'll say this the way they say it: duck rape. Or they kind of like force the duck's head down her throat, and then eventually like the duck kind of spews out and impregnates the girl with a monstrous duck baby thing. And then still like that, the principal of the high school is kidnapping teenagers because he thinks their farts can be used as an elixir of life to keep him young, and there's a load of stuff. And then the fifth one comes in, like at the start of the fifth one, one of the main characters, the one that's been impregnated by that rape, and is now in a massive lesbian relationship with the rich girl. The poor girl that was there for no reason. They reckon they have to hide it because Tromaville isn't good on homosexuality, despite the fact that eventually they have giant enforced on a giant, massive mutated penis that they kind of swing around and hit people with. The fifth one starts in a replication of the start of Carrie.
Real quick, Kieran, on the fourth movie, there's a character named Coach Sandusky. In real life, Jerry Sandusky was a football coach at Penn State that was sexually assaulting children that came to their football camp.
Wow.
What is Coach Sandusky's role in that movie?
I can't remember. I think he's just a football coach that eventually gets
one thing I will point
off.
out. Yeah, one thing I will point out. It is the same cigar face. It's Dan Snow. Yeah, who was in.
And the main bad guy that's sniffing the farts is Lloyd Kaufman, the director, and the president of Troma. I've just seen. Like, this is some of the stuff I didn't realize I didn't know about this. But by the end of the fifth one, there's like lasers and there's mutated monsters, several of them. The duck is called Evan, by the way, and he turns into a big superhero kind of guy. They're taking the mick out of their own stuff. Like, does he turn
into Howard the Duck?
No, but he does kind of go as he's talking. At one point, they do a thing where they're taking the mickey out themselves. I mean, in the third one, I distinctly remember somebody running down some steps going, does anyone know where the credits are? I need to find the credits. Lemmy is the president of the United States. Lemmy from Motorhead, as himself. There's a little thing called President Lemmy there. And at one point, they randomly in the middle of one of the characters saying something, appearing on screen is somebody changing all the languages of the film, and it goes to the director's commentary, and it's Lloyd Kaufman talking about how amazing this thing is. And you shouldn't even be listening to the director's commentary, just watch this, and just switches back again for no reason. And there's goo and galore, and she gives birth at one point to the DVD of one of the films. Like, it's just, and then they're attacking and rampaging, and then how is it that I described the ending of the fifth one? Have I got to read this out now? I guess.
Yes. Because
I couldn't work out how to sum it up, and this still will not sum up the madness of Return to Nuke Em High, aka Volume 2. And I had to describe it to these guys and try and describe it. And my blur kind of ending description was this, that it ends, and I'm not going to do it in one breath as Jacob wanted me to because it's impossible. So it ends with the principal of the high school, horribly mutated by not getting enough radiated teen fart juices and the elixir of life, attacking the main characters as a monstrous, specifically $2,000 monster that's mouth is in one place. They go, oh, you're going to transform into a $2,000 monster costume with your mouth that doesn't move for budget reasons.
That's an editorial, Kieran. You didn't say that part.
No, I'm giving this to it. Oh, I need 5 breaths. So you've got him, and then you've got the daughter of this guy, who was originally a small worm creature that kind of puked up into a toilet and grew up into her over 25 years, even though she's in high school. This is pointed out in the film. And her girlfriend, who was impregnated by oral duck rape. The duck, called Kevin, is now a patriotic bipedal kind of superhero, kind of punching people around. When he punches the principal, he has kind of the United States flags flying off him and Nazi signs fly off the principal. And now they have a small monster duck baby that she gave birth to in the showers in a green goo parody of Carrie. And all this little duck monster baby is like, give me a titty, give me a titty, give me a titty. And then it's like, I want to die right after. And they have to fight off the evil principal monster with a high-powered laser that eventually kills God while he's smoking weed when they fire it off, and has already blinded one of the science teachers in the previous film.
Oh,
this is only part of it.
Yeah, it's a good job he gave Toxie his powers back before he was killed.
Yeah, he's busy smoking weed and complaining why his weed is so bad, why Snoop Dogg always gets the good stuff, and then gets shot by this laser that's already killed.
R.I.P. Snoop Dogg smoking.
I know. It's absolutely stupid and absurd. But one of the things I love, again, is this kind of Monty Python-esque humor. Do you remember you will do, Holy Grail, when they're being attacked by the beast of Kananag or whatever it is, and the animator suffers a heart attack?
Yes.
There's a bit in this film where the mutated principal monster goes to try and the janitor is essentially jacking off in the basement, and the monster is going to come and kill him while he's doing that, and it suddenly stops, and pulls out to the editing screen. You've got the editor there. You've got Lloyd Kaufman, who's in the film as the monster, and one of the other producers there going, "This is my movie. We're having no more tits, no more ejaculation or anything like that." And they have a good 3-4 minute argument about how to take the scene next. That's acceptable to them. So they know what they're doing, and it's just a mad mash of taking the piss out of themselves, taking the piss out of movie making, taking the absolute mickey out of everything. There's full body nudity, male and female. One of the main villains that eventually gets turned into a cretin is like a kind of fat, slimy nerd that kind of is one of the antagonists to the main characters, who eventually gets tricked into running into a classroom naked, fully naked. As one of the things, he's got a piercing on his genitals, fully shown, running around. Like there's no dams given this in a single second, and it's just glorious schlock, stupid, like stupid mayhem. And I have vivid memories of watching this, having never heard of Nuke Em High before, at like 1 o'clock in the morning of like day 2 of a film festival, going, "What the ever loving fuck am I watching? This is ridiculously stupid and insane. Oh, I love it." And it's that kind of nothing, and it builds throughout the film, because I'd seen this and remembered the madness, and then watched the first one. Went, "This is actually quite tame by comparison." It's not tame, you know. It was schlock horror even then, and they just started just going, "Ah, fuck it, why not? Throw that in, yeah, another monster, another fun, yeah, let's throw Lemmy in, let's have Stan Lee in there, why not? Just go for it." And it's just gloriously stupidly insane for no reason other than why the hell not? And you know, they save Tromaville as a result, and Toxie makes several appearances, so they can. And Lloyd Kaufman is still there, still kind of pumping these out after decades, still not giving a flyer. And I know I haven't really described Nuke Em High, but like,
I think you have.
There's no way to adequately describe it.
But both Toxic Avenger and Nuke Em High, those kinds of things, all you can do is try and explain some of the mad shit you've seen.
Yeah.
and people, or even listen, think, "Why did you watch that? I'm never going to see that in my life." I think that sounds amazing. I need to experience this myself.
Yeah,
I think the 4th one has the best poster, by the way. From looking at all 5, the 5th one's a little too polished. The 4th one has like the cartoonish duck. You know, it's very much like pulp 70s art. Got the guy with the gun. I like the look of the monsters a little bit more. And then the other 3, there's just not enough going on. So,
well, I mean, the original 3 are just like proper original kind of, you know, 80s, 90s kind of, almost taking the mick out of this kind of, almost like the Drew Struzan kind of stuff that he did a lot of the kind of the Star Wars and the Raiders and Goonies, a lot of the Spielberg kind of artwork. And then you get to 4 and 5 and just go, bleh, sod it, why not?
I mean, I love with the Toxic Avengers kind of posters that there's usually a billowing American flag behind him, like a Superman.
Great fun. So yeah, if you want absolute stupid madness, if you like, I don't promote drug usage, but probably if you were,
especially not on YouTube, we don't do that.
Exactly, but should you be the kind of person that was doing that, like, this would be the perfect series just to like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Because by the 5th one, like, you're so out of it anyway. It would either be the worst or greatest experience of your life. It's just one of those.
I think I'm going to have to check out at least a couple of these. So by the sounds of what you're saying, probably the last 2 are probably the series that gets better almost with the.
I mean, it gets more mad, and thankfully, I think it's in the 4th one that, and the 5th one, they kind of give you a previously on the series of Nuke Em High kind of stuff. So it is one of those ones that theoretically you can jump into for 4 and 5, because it's just like, oh, this is set in the same place, you know, years after, and occasionally they go, here's some of the weird shit that's happened beforehand. There we go. But it's just absolute stupid madness for the sake of absolute stupid madness. Trash cinema, why not?
Well,
Got to check those out, I think.
Kieran, you make, I guess really both of you, you make my movie sound normal by comparison. So, unlike the other two, mine's not a Troma production. Cannibal the Musical was produced by a group of students at UC, that's University of Colorado Boulder. And by the way, I've been there, beautiful campus, lovely town. Cannibal the Musical was conceived by the creator of South Park, or one of the two, Trey Parker. It was his screenplay. He directed it. He stars in it, although he was credited as Juan Schwartz, which was a reference to the an alias that was used by the main character of the film. So they adapted the story of Alfred Packer, and Alfred Packer was a there's all these stories. You know, I talked last week about the myths of the American West. And we really love to fetishize all of the explorers, no matter how incompetent they were. They are presented as just brilliant minds, brave men who went right through the terrible things that happened in the West and blazed trails. And ultimately, a lot of them were really incompetent. Like, at the end of the day, more people died. More people were stupid than we really ever talk about in history class. And one of those people is Alfred Packer and his party's expedition to Breckenridge, Colorado from the Utah Territory. And so Packer had been in Pennsylvania. He sort of gradually made his way westward throughout his career. He had had seizures. He was generally seen as lazy and a thief. And so whenever he became a prospector looking for gold, you know, there's nothing more opportunistic than prospecting. And so he was like, yes, I know my way through the Colorado Territory because he worked there once. And yeah, so that's sort of where the story comes from. And as they were making that journey, he and a small party split off and he killed and ate them. So the idea for Cannibal the Musical is obviously take that story of a Colorado cannibal and turn it into a comedic musical because, you know, there's nothing funnier than bringing levity to really dark stories. That's always an excellent source of like musical or just general satirical content.
It sounds like one of those films where if you said that and then afterwards went, oh, by the way, the guy that came up with this then went on to do South Park, everyone would just go, yeah, no, that sounds about right. I'm surprised this isn't an episode of South Park, to be honest.
Yeah. And you can see the roots of South Park in there. You know, they're really dumb jokes. You can see the roots of the Book of Mormon in there, both the musical parts, and there's a priest character who is a Mormon church, you know, preacher or whatever. The film opens. And as I said, this is a student film. And like for a student film, this is incredibly high quality. This may be the best student film I've ever seen. It opens with this. The film you're about to see was originally released in 1954, upstaged by the overwhelming popularity of Oklahoma. Its short-lived theater run was canceled, and Alfred Packer the Musical soon fell into obscurity. The original negative, rediscovered just last year, has been painstakingly restored using state-of-the-art color-enhancing and computer reconstruction technology. The film's violent scenes have been edited out for your viewing pleasure. Which, you know, then begs the question, what were the violent scenes? Because the immediate following scene is Alfred Packer biting off somebody's arm, beating someone to death with that arm, biting someone's neck like a vampire, biting someone and then tearing their jaw apart and pulling out his tongue. And then it cuts to the prosecutor in his trial going, pretending to pull out a guy's tongue and eat it. And
are we sure this isn't like the original version of Hatchet or something?
Yeah, probably. Although I don't remember cannibalism in that book. Is there cannibalism in Hatchet?
There's not cannibalism in Hatchet, no, but I think there's obviously in the first film, with Victor Crowley. That's very famous. I think he does kind of rip
Oh,
somebody's head back
sorry.
like that.
I'm thinking of like the kid's book about a kid who gets trapped in the wilderness.
No. I'm talking Hatchet, the movie where it had Kane Hodder as Victor Crowley, and then eventually there was a point in the second or third one where you had him fighting off another actor who also played Jason at one point. It's just like a horror like lineup. There's at one point where you've got like people that have played like there's one where Tony Todd's in a couple of them, like people that played Michael Myers appear. Danielle Harris becomes the main actress, the final girl. But yeah, he's got a ripped face back at one point as well.
Yeah, and so part of the impetus for the film was Trey Parker's girlfriend broke up with him. She had been cheating on him, and so in the movie, the motivations are changed from Alfred Packer's real life. You know, in real life, he was just trying to get along, tried to get money. He ended up robbing the people that he killed, taking all of their stuff, selling it, spending tons and tons of money in the town that he went to in Colorado, where he was eventually discovered, and people were like, hey, where'd you get all this money after your friends disappeared? And he was like, you know, who knows? They gave somebody gave it to me, and he just told all these inconsistent stories.
Found a load of gold somewhere, dug it up, found the ground.
Yeah, and that's what the movie is sort of about, is his narrative, but obviously, you know, more comedically and lighthearted. But the impetus of the film is that girlfriend, and he names Alfred's horse after the girlfriend, and there are many references to a date, not a dating relationship between them, but obviously not. So it's more allusions
Beautiful.
to his real life girlfriend. So he'll say that there's a song about being on top of her and talking about she's the only one that would let me ride her. But then the evil trappers end up with her, and he realizes that she left him and he doesn't need her in his life. And it's sort of a coming to terms with that tough portion of his life where he thought he was going to marry a woman and then didn't. And, you know, obviously there's a dehumanization element to that is somewhat questionable, but it's also pretty funny. Just in a really juvenile way. And I think that's the best way to describe the humor of South Park and the movie in general. Juvenile humor. There's a part where they say, oh, fudge, I'm going to eat some fudge. Fudge, Packer? And offers him some. And then there's parts like, you know, I wish I had a horse, you know, something like that. And they say, well, a horse, of course. Yeah.
What's the music like? What's the quality of the songs like?
I mean,
I was going to say, something like this sounds like, oh, Cannibal the musical, then you get like one song, and they just turn and go, you thought this was going to be an actual musical?
One thing I do know about Trey Parker and Matt Stone is they are both massive musical fans. I mean, you can see that from South Park, Big Log, and Uncut. Literally, every song in that is a pitch perfect parody of like a really well known kind of show. You know.
Yeah, it's the same here. Like you can see the roots for all of their future musical work in it. Like it's a full on musical. There are a lot of different characters that get numbers. The first one, it's called I can't remember the name of it. It's like Schladope. I don't know. Some dumb name. They use the word throughout the film, and it's a parody of "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." And he uses a baked potato as a simile or metaphor. I can't remember which one for. I don't know, just joy.
Spadoinkle.
Yeah, spadoinkle. That's it. It's a spadoinkle day, and then they'll just kind of say it throughout as both good and bad. So it's a multi-meaning word, and yeah, so he's telling the story in retrospect to a reporter named Polly Pry, and they eventually fall in love, of course. But yeah, he sits in the courtroom and they convict him, and he says, well, that's not how it happened. Because he's this very innocent, wimpy sort of character that it's reminiscent of the character in Book of Mormon, where there's a naivete to him that, of course, the original Packer didn't have. But, you know, in his framing of the story, of course he would be like, well, No, I didn't eat those men. No, of course not.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, great news! I've just looked up. So the Troma back catalogue's on Prime in this country, and Cannibal the musical is on Shudder. So I am adding that to my list.
Oh, beautiful.
it's on Peacock here. And then also 3 different free streaming services, Tubi, Pluto, and another one that I can't remember the name of. But yeah, so obviously, it's satirical. It's got the violence in it. So there's a scene where it's the last cannibal scene where one of the party members has killed all the other people as Packer wandered off to go look over a ridge or something like that, and he comes back and they're all dead. And then he only kills out of self-defense in the end. But there's the musical, sort of psycho sting to it. And then there's the bad guy keeps coming back. He hits him in the eye with a butcher's knife. He shoots him in the head, stabs him in the eye with a stick, and then finishes him off with a pickaxe to the heart. And then there's still the fake out, is he dead? And he is. And then, one of the more problematic scenes, but I mean, also kind of funny, like the Native Americans are played by Japanese exchange students. Some of them did not know English. I think that the one that did know it was the chief. And so they arrive at the camp, their tribe's land or whatever, and they go, "Oh, we are Indians. Yes, look at all of these teepees. Obviously, we are Indians." But they have samurai swords, and they teach them like karate. And he uses his martial arts talents that he acquired in a bar fight later against the trappers. And then there's a couple of fun musical numbers involving the trappers. One, they have their own song that they, sing about their lives as trappers and how awesome they are. And that is sung lip sync by Trey Parker in his one of his sarcastic singing voices that he uses. Although the other two do sing and they're way off. And then afterwards he goes, "Well, you guys were off key. The song is in F sharp, but you were in E minor." And then they have a discussion about music theory and how that is the minor of F sharp. And yeah, it's very inside baseball for the musical people. But also, it's funny because why would all these minors know this? And then, oh gosh, and then there's a big musical number at the end about hanging him that all of the town folks sing. Oh, and then there's another musical number where one of the men has gone mad, and he's very optimistic, and he's like, "Let's build a snowman," and he's pushing a snowman, building it, tap dancing in the ice, and then they destroy the snowman with a pickaxe. So, I mean, yeah, it's a student film. It's, shot in like the TV VHS sort of format.
Yeah.
I don't know if they shot it on film or not. But it's really high quality in terms of like student films that they're shooting on the weekend over spring break.
There's a reason for that. I'm just checking it up on Wiki, which obviously we know is not the best source, but just for general information, normally gives some decent generalizations. They apparently did it as a 3-minute trailer for a film class, and it got a load of attention. And then they raised for this 125 grand. Which back in the day, so what, at least times 3? So what, that's probably coming on $500,000 easy.
Yeah, and they had a professor who was like really encouraging them to do the project, and he kind of helped them budget it and write their prospectus and stuff. And he was like, "Yeah, you could probably make this for like $100K," and they were like, "Oh, that's all."
But yeah, looking at it, apparently they kind of screened it in 1 or 2 places, and but it was only in the area. And then Troma picked it up in '96. So this was a few years after they made it. That Troma picked it up and renamed it Cannibal the Musical from Alfred Packer the Musical, because they didn't think enough people knew who Packer was apparently. And then I'm just saying, apparently, eventually it's now got a DVD version that Troma have released. apparently, the DVD also includes a drunken director's commentary, where Parker and Stone, along with most of the cast, get drunk as they watch the film. Although there are a few times where the commentary cuts out,
Yeah.
which is the most Troma release thing I've ever heard in my life, and that is amazing. And apparently, it got re-released in 2008 as the first part of the Tromasterpiece collection, just to bring it back to Troma.
Yeah, and
you know,
that's
madness.
that's sort of whenever I was looking at like what are the best Troma films, trying to pick one. I saw that this was a Troma film, and I looked a little into it and saw that not really. It was distributed by them, and like you said, they got picked up home release in '96, and so
I find it interesting that even though it was picked up by them later on, I presume Matt Stone, Trey Parker were Troma fans before this, because I think they share a lot of the same sensibilities and the same sense of humor, attitude to making stuff, So it's probably like a happy coincidence that ends up, being put out there by Troma.
Yeah, Kieran, when I read the PDF, they share a lot of the same sensibilities where they want to offend. They don't care about one side or the other, which is part of the reason I stopped watching South Park, is because of the centrist politics of it, where they say, yeah, we make fun of both sides. Well, there's one side that is clearly worse than the other in American politics. But yeah, the film itself definitely aligns with the Troma B-movie aspect. And it was distributed by them, and also the Tromasterpiece bit too. So when they're releasing the Tromasterpiece collection, which I lost, I had a link for it, but that sort of represents that this is a film that they think is very representative of their film catalog, and that's sort of a big aspect of their filmmaking, is the distribution part of it. So, yep, that's my bit on Cannibal the Musical.
Yeah. And we're running on, so we should probably just bring it up to date a little bit with Troma, where it is. In 2014, they changed their slogan to 40 years of disrupting media, and now they've changed it to 50 years of disrupting media going into 2024. So they're still updating the website. Apparently, all the Toxic Avenger movies are coming out in 4K.
Yeah, they've still got Toxie as their logo, haven't they?
Yeah, still got Toxie as their logo. Apparently, in 2012, they officially released a load of their films on YouTube. But apparently, the YouTube channel was eventually terminated for not meeting community standards. What a surprise!
Yeah,
could not have guessed that at all.
Probably not the kind of stuff you could show on YouTube.
Yeah. So, and I mean, a lot of that would have been for free as well. I think at one point they did do a thing where for a sort of, a week or so, you could on their site watch a lot of their movies for free as a kind of special kind of thing. So Lloyd Kaufman is still going somehow and still trying to offend people, still pumping this stuff out for the laughs, and keeping it very much going. I just want to read there's part again of that introduction to the book which I sent before, and I think this kind of paragraph, is a long one, really sums up kind of the spirit of independent filmmaking and why it is important just in general for people. And he says that one of the most rewarding aspects of making movies, this is Lloyd Kaufman, again, the president of Troma, one of the most rewarding aspects of making movies in the underground is knowing that loyal fans genuinely admire you for the work you produce, not because you're one of people's 100 most talented actors, editions, and worshipped by trillions. One of our fans demonstrated his loyalty on the 11th September 2001. That was the day the World Trade Center's Twin Towers collapsed in New York City. When the obscene terrorism occurred, I became stranded in London. I didn't feel like swimming across the Atlantic Ocean to get home, so I remained stuck in London with very little money and no place to sleep. Luckily, Troma fan Andrew McKay allowed me to stay in his family's house until I was able to leave England. In brackets, Andrew is the creator of the official UK Troma fan site. For 8 days, he and his parents made me feel at home and became my friends. On the plane home, I thought to myself, you're a lucky guy, Lloyd. You could have been gutted alive if Andrew were a psychotic fan. You could have been on one of the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center. You could have directed AI. which is harsh. But I just think that the fact that you can direct absolute schlock for decades, get stranded in London, and one of your fans just goes, "Come live at my house for a week whilst the madness sorts out." You know, that's that. I think that's a testament to what film does, and even bad films as a community, just for not giving a damn, and we enjoy the same sensibilities. And yes, all this stuff, it's not great cinema. It's not the highlight of the craft, you know, but it's fun and it can bring people together in some way to share and rejoice in, you know, depraved sensibilities in some way.
And it's got it's got something about it, a certain charm and appeal, hasn't it? Just for them just to, you know, leap in, you know, but both feet forward, you know, and just not caring really, just well, not caring what people think, I suppose, because of course they care about what they do. They care about, you know, the films they make, but not caring kind of how they're received and kind of anyone kind of putting any restrictions on them. I mean, have you heard Lloyd Kaufman's three rules of three rules for Troma production? They has
I feel like I
has
should have done.
on every set. Number one, safety to humans. Number two, safety to people's property. And three, in much smaller font, make a good movie.
Yeah. Well, I think that sums up Troma more than anything else. It's kind of, you know, as long as people are having a good time, you know, as long as, you know, we come together because we love making stupid movies, and that's what we're gonna do. And you know, we're gonna make a livelihood out of it. And it's not high art, but it is very funny.
Yes. All right. Well,
welcome to Troma.
I guess that does it for our Troma episode, but we will be back with something in the future. But until then...
Oh, I just thought we got all this way through and I didn't make a trauma joke.
Well, yours didn't sound all that traumatizing to you, I guess.
I was going to say, I think actors are going to have post-traumatic stress disorder.
There we go. Nailed it.
There we go. Got it in.
Yeah, so if you want more hilarious lines like that, until then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at Film Magazine. I don't think I've got anything new up since the last episode, but there'll be some updates to my Marvel lists sometime this week, probably.
Yeah, and hopefully you don't find me anywhere, but if you do, I'm Judgmental across the webs in various places. I've actually been fairly busy recently for TFM. I know, you know, all those months where I did absolutely nothing, and now I've actually got stuff. So I've got, following on from the last episode, I've got a 2,000-word essay on my hot take on Killers of the Flower Moon. Which is spoiling a spoiler. I reckon it's essentially shadowing Beth.
Which I can understand now. I can understand that take because I have seen it.
Do you agree or not? Is the question.
I kind of see what you're getting at. Kind of.
It's my hot take. Who cares? Yeah. And I got a review that came out just this evening for Embers, which is a small independent film. Which I kind of didn't know anyone in it except the actor that plays Danny Pink in Doctor Who is in it as one of the characters. I'm like, I recognize him, and it took me a second to go, "Where's my name from? Where do I know him from?" So along with that coming out, I will also have my Catherine Bigelow movies ranked, all 10 of them. It'll be 11 when she does Aurora next year, and hopefully for getting away from actual decent cinema. I've got a review of Thanksgiving, the new Eli Roth slasher movie, which again was based off a little trailer from Grindhouse, the double bill that Tarantino and Rodriguez did in 2007, and that's coming out, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Yes, so now we're just waiting on Edgar Wright's Don'ts, aren't we?
Yeah. Which is amazing. That's the
last one we're still waiting for, I think.
Yeah, we've done Machete, we've done Hobo with a shotgun, we've done Thanksgiving. We need Edgar Wright to do Don't now, and complete the lot.
Yes.
By the way, Hobo the Shotgun, another great schlock film.
Yeah.
And you can find me at Jacob Film Guy. I updated my David Fincher ranked with The Killer. spoiler, I liked it. Although, did I like it as much as his best movies? I don't know.
Question: is there a killer?
Yes, there's the killer.
Okay. Does it want to
And some other ones. There's multiple.
Woo!
Yeah, so go check that out, and you can follow us at Second Cut Pod or at Second Cut Podcast. Either one. I mean, just look it up. It'll probably pop up. You're already here, so do you really need to know that? And let's see, what else? Go buy our stuff and the Redbubble store. Give us money on PayPal if you don't feel like getting something shipped to you, because that's such a pain. And yeah.
I feel like we should start doing this plug in the middle of an episode. One, to give people a break, and two, for those that get bored and turn off, we've at least fed them the plug halfway in the middle.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't
buy
like
the cool
commercials.
swag anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm saying, and you're in the US, you have 7,000 of them.
Yes. So that is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Wow.
Adios.